What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Happy Monday. Hope you guys are doing well. And there isn't a lot going on in the world of NFL football right now, and not really much of anything that I know of as of me recording this video in the world of the Seattle Seahawks. So we're going to go ahead and talk about a topic that I've seen a lot of Seahawks people discussing over the last week or so, basically ever since they signed Dante Fowler. And this isn't an original question, but it is a question that I think is worth exploring as we move through this offseason. We are here on May 11th, so we're very close to the schedule release, but to fill the time between now and the schedule release, I want to address this general question that a lot of Seahawks fans have been pondering. This video is sponsored by Prize Picks. So Corbin Smith has this tweet up here that kind of encapsulates the conversation. Basically, here it is. The Seahawks this offseason lost 5 free agents, right? They lost 5 players. 4 of them were relatively important. One of them was pretty minor, but they lost 5 players that are of some degree of impact. And as of the Dante Fowler signing, they have now done, at the very least, a significant chunk of the heavy lifting in replacing those guys. So here's the question. Did they upgrade or downgrade with those swaps? If you take a look at the swaps made with those 5 players, are things now better or worse? And everybody's going to have their own take on that. And in most cases, we're not going to know until the season starts and we get to see some games. But we can speculate on it with what we do know right now. So Corbin did a thread of polls. So I'm not really going to go into that because obviously that's just going to be what different people think. And it's also individual, right? So I want to kind of do individual and then as a whole. So laid out, if you go to Spotrac, they've got a list of the 5 players the Seahawks let leave in free agency. Boye Mafe, Ken Walker, Kobe Bryant, Reek Woolen, and Derek Young. Now, let me just say before we get started here, it's pretty awesome that we can even have this conversation, right? Because one thing we know for sure, the Seahawks saved a ton of money doing this. Every replacement they've gotten is making either a little bit less or a lot less money than the player that left is. So the fact that we can even have an arguable discussion here, even if we don't come to the right conclusion, is very, very good. So let's just go ahead and go in order here from average annual value top to bottom. And we're going to start with a pretty easy one here, in my opinion. Boye Mafe. We replaced Boye Mafe with Dante Fowler. That to me is very clearly an upgrade. Well, okay, I'll retract that. I think it's an upgrade. I'm not going to say it's very clear, but I'm going to say based on the evidence that we have over the last season, it's the case. Boye Mafe was okay last year, but he didn't produce that much as a pass rusher. And I mean, look, I don't think he's bad against the run. I don't think he could be that bad against the run because we had the best run defense in football last year. And Boye Mafe played a lot, so how could he be that bad? But I don't think he was anything over the top special against the run. I don't think he was particularly extraordinary. And Dante Fowler last year was more productive as a pass rusher, and he was also probably at least as good, maybe better against the run. If you like sports, then the best way to make them even better and more exciting is using the Prize Picks app, where it always feels good to be right. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy simple. Just pick more or less on your favorite players and build lineups with a few taps. Whatever sport you're into, and obviously we are now firmly into the NFL offseason, so we're all about baseball. We got some basketball, we got some hockey, whatever it is you like. Prize Picks gives you a fun way to stay locked in while you're watching. Definitely make sure to use the promo code HMA. Prize Picks is hooking up users with $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. If you use that promo code, that is HMA. I've had a great time on Prize Picks so far, so definitely get on over to it, check it out, and make sure to get your lineups. And don't forget about team picks, where you can pick winners, spreads, and totals on any major game. So download the app now, use HMA, and get on over to Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And remember, always gamble responsibly. So yeah, to me, that is an upgrade. And even if it's not, I think it's probably a wash. Unless Dante Fowler ages in dog years this offseason and is just completely inept next year, I don't think this will be a downgrade. And the bottom line is, Boye Mafe got $60 million. I know he's not going to see all of it, but he got $60 million on 3 years, and Dante Fowler got at most 5. So even if you want to argue that Mafe is a tiny bit better somehow, it doesn't matter, because the cost is so much bigger that it's still objectively better to have Dante Fowler, who, by the way, has a 1-year deal. So that's definitely the clear win here. Now, Ken Walker. Ken Walker, we have replaced Ken Walker with basically Jadarian Price and Emmanuel Wilson, and to a certain extent, you could say Kenny McIntosh, but I don't think McIntosh is going to make the team. I don't think there's room for him. So you're basically replacing Ken Walker with mostly Jadarian Price, but a little bit of Emmanuel Wilson. Is that better or worse? A lot of people seem to think it's better. I don't feel that way. Now, maybe Emmanuel Wilson makes it interesting, right? Because Emmanuel Wilson is a veteran. He's played well when given opportunities, and he doesn't have a lot of wear and tear on him, so he shouldn't get washed up this offseason. And when you're talking about 2 guys replacing 1 guy, that insulates you a little bit against injury. It insulates you a little bit of a player not being as good as you wanted him to be. So Ken Walker, replacing him with 2 guys, that's kind of nice. But the main replacement is Jadarian Price, and Price is a rookie. And he's a rookie that didn't even get a big workload in college. So while that does carry some benefit, I don't know if I would say that Jadarian Price is going to be better than Ken Walker as a veteran than Price will be as a rookie. There is a little bit of a learning curve here. I don't think it'll be a huge one, but there will be something to be said about, especially in that first month, Price is probably not going to be the Price that we get going forward from there. Now, I say again, the Price is massively better with, pun not intended, Price and Wilson. Price and Wilson combined are making how much money against the cap this year? Like $5 million. Walker's making 14.5 average annual value. But the thing is, and the counter here is that we're not trying to build a cost-effective roster. We're trying to win another Super Bowl. And building a cost-effective roster is great, but if that cost-effective roster ends up costing you the NFC Championship game somehow, you're not going to be running around waving a flag that says, we have a cost-effective roster. No, the other team, the team that beat you, is going to be waving a flag that says NFC champions or Super Bowl champions. So yes, the price is a lot better. If you want to look at it in terms of pure bean counting, yeah, it's better to have Wilson and Price than Walker. But that doesn't mean the downgrade. And I do feel like there is a downgrade, because I do think Walker was a supremely talented back, could end up weighing significant. So I don't think that one's clear cut. Kobe Bryant would be the next guy here. He got that big contract from the Bears. And a lot of people, and I understand why this is, point out that Bud Clark is here to replace Kobe Bryant. And big picture-wise, that's definitely true. I'm not convinced Bud Clark plays a ton as a rookie, though. I think you are more than likely going to have mostly Ty Okada, and Bud Clark comes in on occasion and maybe fills in some, maybe like dime corner roles and third safety roles. And that's not really replacing Kobe right now. I think that Okada is replacing Kobe. But the interesting thing there is that if you look at it like that, a lot of people, not necessarily me, but a lot of people thought that Okada was better than Kobe Bryant last year anyway. I got a lot of comments from people who thought Okada was better. And I do think he's better in some areas. I don't know if he's better overall. But even if he's not, even if it's like slightly in favor of Kobe Bryant, it doesn't really matter that much because again, look at the price. Like Tai Okada is making nothing this year. He's on a minimum salary for his level of experience, I believe, because that's how ERFA works. So Kobe Bryant at 13 and a third million per year is making close to what would that be? 7 or 8 times as much money as Okada and Bud Clark combined. Even if you want to throw people like Rodney Thomas II in there, which I wouldn't, but you could, then I think that we did do better because look, Bud Clark's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes, and I think we all need to prepare for that mentally. I think we all need to understand that Bud Clark, even though he's an older prospect, is not going to come into the league as a completely finished product. Tai Okada is, though. Tai Okada is experienced and he's cheap. So I actually think overall this is a win. You did get better here and you saved a ton of money doing it. Then you got Tariq Woolen. Tariq Woolen got the $12 million deal from Philly. It probably goes up to like 15. Either way, you replaced him with basically mostly Julian Neal, little bit of Andre Fuller, mostly those two guys, right? Now, again, you definitely made out like gangbusters in the financials because you ended up saving. I mean, what do Price and Fuller make combined this year? $3 million, something like that, somewhere around there. Maybe not even that. And Woolen's getting paid many more times that. Now, I have to admit, I'm a little bit surprised at how many people seem to think that those two guys who are rookies are going to be better than Woolen this year. I don't expect Neal to play very much, so it's not even really an equivalency. Same for Fuller. I don't think either of those guys see the field that much. They're not going to play as much as Woolen did. Woolen played in almost every game. Neal, I think, is mostly sitting on the bench until somebody gets hurt. And players get hurt, so I think Neal will play some. But as of right now, I have no reason to believe he's going to play a ton. So it's a little bit of a false equivalency here. Woolen is leaving to make way for Josh Jobe to play more in all likelihood, more than anything else. And there's a trade-off there. Woolen, as rough as the postseason was for him, was phenomenal in coverage last year. His coverage numbers were off the charts. So Jobe and Neal and Fuller or pretty much anybody else in the world is not going to be able to match how good Woolen was in coverage last year. The issue is that Woolen, of course, is not really good in run support. He's not a good tackler. He, I think, has gotten a little bit better to where he's not a complete zero at it. But then you also have other concerns with Woolen, I think, that kind of preclude giving him a significant contract. I think there's a concern that he's not into football the way that we need a player to be. And we'll see what happens in Philly. I don't think we upgraded. I do think it is on the football field a step back. It may end up not costing us anything because there is some stuff with Woolen that can hurt you outside of the confines of the actual play. And you guys know what I'm talking about here. But bottom line is, when I look at Reek Woolen, I do still see a player that is very good at football that Josh Jobe getting more snaps and whatever we get out of Julian Neal and Andre Fuller is not going to be equivalent to. But again, you did save a lot of money. And the final guy is Derek Young, and he's getting replaced by Emmanuel Henderson Jr., the Kansas rookie we took. They're going to occupy a somewhat similar role here. Derek Young was mostly here for special teams. So is Emmanuel Henderson. I'm sure Derek Young was a little bit better than Henderson's going to be this year. But Derek Young was also hurt for a lot of last year, so he didn't even play that much, so that doesn't even really matter. And the impact they make is so small, it's not even really worth debating about that much. Derek Young is probably a bit better, but we did save a little bit of money there, so I don't think the trade-off is worthy of our fear, if that makes sense. So, yeah, that one's probably close to equivalent because Derek Young is better, but Young was also hurt a lot last year, so at least Henderson's going to get to play. All right, so that's really all I got. I'll see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you guys think. But overall, I think this is close. I think we probably downgraded a little bit overall, but it's a little bit, man. It's very little. And given the fact that we saved a ridiculous amount of money, I gotta say, can't do much better than that. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think.